This is how I learned to hold my breath for 4 minutes in one day. Before I started practicing breath hold training back in 2014, I could only hold my breath for a bit over 1 minute. I have never had any mentors or teachers while learning this, so I learned everything myself together with a friend. I have a background in commercial diving, so I do know a lot about diving medicine and safety underwater. I do not recommend anyone to train to hold their breath by themselves underwater. It is always best to go to a freediving school and learn the right way. Most of my training I have done and I still do at home, alone, on the sofa or on the bed, since I don't always have someone who can come with me to the pool. When I do train in the pool, I always make sure to have a partner. You should never hold your breath underwater alone if you want to stay alive. So as I said, I started out by being able to hold my breath for a bit over 1 minute. Then I read a bit online on freediving forums about breathing techniques and tips to hold the breath longer. And what I learned was this. 1. Never hold your breath underwater alone. 2. At first I learned if you want to hold your breath longer, you should wait 4 hours after your last meal before you hold your breath. After training to hold my breath for 7 years now, I have learned that 4 hours after a meal is better than right after a meal. But I will get the best result if I wait 8 hours. I actually gain 1 to 2 more minutes of breath hold time if I wait 8 hours instead of 4. Now I will manage 4 minutes if I hold my breath right after eating a meal. I manage 5 to 6 minutes if I wait 4 hours. And I can do between 7 and 9 minutes if I wait 8 hours. The third thing I learned is correct breathing technique. That being breathing in for 3 to 4 seconds through the nose and out for 6 to 8 seconds through the mouth. I was to do this for 2 minutes. Then take a deep breath and hold. When I'm breathing out, I'm tightening the lips to make a bit of resistance when I blow out the air. When you use some resistance when you're blowing out, it helps the body access the oxygen in the air a bit more. Since you're pushing the air into the smallest sacs in the lungs, that doesn't get too much air that often when you do shallow breathing. Some say it's better to breathe through the nose. Personally, I do not feel much difference if I breathe through the nose or mouth when I breathe in. This breathing I do for static apnea. Static apnea is laying completely still, floating in the water, not moving a muscle, which is something completely different than holding the breath while you're swimming. 4. Then I learned if I hyperventilate, it gets a bit easier to hold the breath. But it is not because the body gets more oxygen, it is because you get less CO2 in the body, meaning you can pass out without feeling that you need to breathe. So that is very dangerous to do when holding breath underwater. If you get a bit lightheaded when you are getting ready to hold the breath, you are breathing either too hard or too fast. 5. Then I read if I hold my breath long, the body will try to force me to breathe by giving me contractions in my diaphragm and abs. It looks kind of like when you flex your abs because you think someone is about to punch you in the stomach. If you don't know what contractions is, it feels like you're suffocating and you need to breathe right now or you will die. But the fact is, contractions is just a reflex of the buildup of CO2 in the lungs, and it's not much affected of low oxygen levels. For me, I get contractions about halfway through my breath hold. Everyone experiences contractions differently, and some don't get contractions at all. So contractions should not be used to measure how far in your breath hold you are. 6. After learning and doing everything I just said, I tried it out laying on the bed. I did 2 minutes of breathing and I was easily able to hold my breath for more than 2 minutes on the first try. I also read that you should warm up to do breath holds, meaning repeated breath holds. So after holding for 2 minutes, I was to breathe for 2 minutes and try to hold again. And I was able to do 2 minutes and 30 seconds. In total, I repeated this for 8 rounds. Every round I was able to hold a bit longer, and after the last round I was able to hold my breath for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. After a 5-hour break without eating, I tried again, 8 rounds of breath holds, and I was able to do 4 minutes and 3 seconds. Afterwards, I have learned if you want long-term good results, it's better to train not very hard, but rather consistently over time. I have never had a blackout during a breath hold, and that is because I never push too hard. I'm not trying to be better than someone else, I'm just trying to be better than I was last month.